Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show, highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyles, community, and neighborhood. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, this is a special show we're having today. Special to me because I've known my guest for 10 years.
Yes, really?
Yeah, but when you say you know someone for 10 years, you don't go back and say, well, how old was she when you met her? And the answer is 8 years old.
I was going to say, she's kind of young for you to know her 10 years.
Well, school's back in session, and there are a lot of people who are on their way to college. There are a lot of people who have gone back into the school season and getting their dorms set up. And in a perfect world, that was what my guest, Annelle Staal, would have been doing this year, because she graduated Pinecrest a little bit early last year. And now as an 18-year-old, Annelle is on her way to Nashville with a recording contract. She is known to a lot of residents of Moore County from some of the local gigs that she's performed at, the Jefferson Inn, the Drum and Quill, amongst others. And she is not just a singer and a performer, she's a writer. And at 18 years old, I didn't think that was possible. But Annelle, from the time, 8 years, 10 years ago, to today, you went through school. You were going to be a communications and psychology major.
Yeah.
Those were the plans, huh?
Yes, those are the plans. Well, I mean, I've always enjoyed communicating. I'm quite the talker.
Right.
I think that was very clear to my parents early on. And then I loved writing. So anytime we got to write poetry or an essay in school, I was always very gung-ho, very willing. And then just songwriting, it was kind of a wild card that I felt like it was a ghost, honestly, that was following me through my childhood, because I always enjoyed the thought of composition. I loved music as a kid and was raised on really good music. And so when it came time to kind of explore my own artistry as I grew up, I felt very prepared, like emotionally, and I've really grown as a person, and my writing has gotten to develop with me. So yeah.
For people who don't know you, we're going to play some of the songs you've performed and written today so they can appreciate some of the depth of your talent.
Thank you.
Well, it's striking. What's equally striking to me is how it evolved. When you were in middle school, maybe getting ready to be a freshman in high school, you were singing songs, you were playing the guitar.
It's true.
With your sisters.
Right.
When did it shift? When did it transfer?
Yeah, well, so, as a writer, you write about what you know, you write about what you feel, and as a middle schooler, I thought middle schooler thoughts and had middle schooler feelings.
Right.
So some of those were far more elementary than kind of the complex feelings you get as you start to become a young adult. So in middle school, I dabbled a lot in musical theater, and kind of as a joke, I used to write these musicals for my parents and for our grandparents. All my little sisters. I'm the oldest of 6, so I had a big cast to work with, and I started writing like musical theater songs. So a lot of my writing was very Broadway in the beginning, and very dramatic, and then that's really played into kind of the drama and the anticipation of my writing now. It's very introspective, a little bit brooding at times, but I think I get that from my theatrical side. So
It's an observation of mine over the last 10 years. You mentioned your siblings. You have 4 sisters?
4 sisters.
And a brother.
Yes. And a little brother,
And a little brother. You come from a very nurturing family.
Yes.
Both your mother and father are, I describe them as proactive, encouraging.
Indeed. Yeah, very.
Encouraging your independence.
Oh yeah. My mom is an English professor, and so when I picked up writing and really got into reading and just kind of like that composition side, she's also classically trained in piano, so we had that in common a bit. And then my dad wanted to be an artist when he was a young man, and so
I didn't know that.
Yes, fun. You learn something new
I
every day.
did not know that.
Mark
Okay.
Staal wanted to be an artist, and so it was just both of my parents, I think, have been able to relate to me from an empathetic kind of standpoint, but then also just they've been so encouraging as my parents to just, for me to pursue my dreams and willing to do things like graduate early and consider moving to Nashville on my own.
How did your music leave your house? How did somebody hear you or say, okay, would you come and play at the Jefferson?
Right.
Or would you go?
Right.
How did that all happen?
Well, let me tell you. It all started because for a while, I was just kind of like a monkey in a cage, like they'd bring me out like, oh, Annelle, do your little thing. And I'd play the little song I wrote, and then all my friends' parents would clap and be like, oh, amazing. Okay, Annelle, go away. And so for a while it was just that. And then my friends heard my music and encouraged me to go to an open mic night. And then one open mic night led to the next. And
Okay.
I found myself investing in equipment and learning my repertoire, because when I started playing at restaurants and things, they want you to do a lot of covers. And at the time, I only knew 3 or 4 songs. And then now I'm up to like 200. So lots of hard work. But
When did the writing start? Because you were performing other people's work initially?
So my monkey in the cage trick was I had a couple of songs. So I had written a few things that I wouldn't consider them exceptional, but at the time they were the best I had, and
Right.
my parents saw a lot of potential in me. And so the writing really started, I think I wrote my first song at age 12 when I started feeling like those like preteen emotional angst started coming out.
Right.
And then in, I guess, lower high school, upper middle school, I really got into writing and trying to articulate my feelings and poetry, all kinds of angsty teenage stuff. So that's what brought it out of me.
Mentors. Your inspirations. Who were the people besides your parents
Right.
that got you on this kick?
Oh my. Okay. Well, I've been blessed with so many amazing people in my life. Honestly, I'm so fortunate, so lucky. I've had some amazing teachers. So a few teachers in particular throughout elementary school and middle school encouraged us to journal. And so that's really what got me used to my writer's voice, was that journaling kind of exercise. So my teachers, my grandfather wanted to be a poet when he was a young man. And
Your father's father?
yes,
Okay.
my father's father. And he's a funky guy. He kind of like dropped out of high school, was a weirdo kind of bum for a while, but wrote a lot. And in his old age, we've become very good friends, the two of us. And he just picked up composition. So it was interesting to be his granddaughter and to see like that musical composition gene show up in him too, a little bit later, but we got to share that bond, and he's been a great mentor and a great friend to me my whole life. So yeah.
I want to play. We're fortunate. We have quite a bit of your music to play today.
It's a little treasure chest of it.
Well, tell me about Run.
Okay, so when I got into music, and I wrote a lot of very slow, very like kind of thoughtful ballads, and Run, this song was kind of pivotal for me. I wrote it about a year and a half ago, maybe, and it was the first upbeat song I had ever written on the piano. And I remember kind of messing around with it, like, man, this is a little out of my comfort zone, but I thought, if this song was produced, it would totally be a pop song. So when we took it to Nashville for the first time, they were like, hey, do you have any songs that we could produce for the radio? I was like, hey, I have this one. And so Run was kind of like the Kickstarter for everything.
Let's take a listen to it.
You're trying to enter under the exit sign. I tried, attempted to teach you to keep you in check in a line. But how fortunate for you, how fortunate for you. I reached for the pep and grabbed the can of perfume. I tried to make an escape, but I got us both lost in the fumes. But how fortunate for you, how fortunate for you. Well, might as well. I won't kiss, I won't tell. You say just think for a spell. I say you better forward around.
We're going to just play a bit of it. You wrote that song.
I wrote that song. It sounds crazy to think about it like that, but you've got to imagine, like, for me, it was all concept back then. You know, I just had me and the keyboard, and I was just kind of, like, putzing away at my little keys, like, you're trying to enter under the exit sign, and I, like, had such a vision. But until we brought it to a producer, it was just, like, a little baby song, and, yeah.
What did the producer think of it?
Oh, man. I mean, well, being a producer, he's a creative mind, too, so he immediately saw the potential and was like, yeah, we are going to turn this into a jam. And so it was really an amazing moment as a writer. It always is. Some of the songs just really hit me. Like, when you see a song that you've kind of, it's an emotion that you've kind of poured out of yourself, or something that you've taken out. So it's a creation, and you have this vision. And a lot of times songwriters are they have to deal with the disappointment of never seeing that creation fully realized. But I've been given an amazing opportunity where this little tiny concept that I'll write, I can take it to a team of people that'll rally around it and kind of make the dream come true.
Where does somebody who's 18... Where does someone who's 18, where are you able to draw upon? Because when I hear you, I don't hear 18. I hear older. The experiences that you draw on to inspire your writing.
Right. Well, so Run was a little bit of a shallower emotion. Some songs are deeper than others. And as I've matured, it's really been a sort of therapy for me. So I think we have another song on hand, Layla Lou.
Mm-hmm.
That one, I've started writing a lot. I do a lot of writing with imagery now. So after we produced a couple of tracks, kind of like with that pop thing, I wanted to return to something that was truer to me and to my poetic voice. And so Layla Lou is an example, at least for me, of like something that's trying to capture a deeper emotion through imagery and yeah.
Can we play that too? I want to hear that one as well.
See, and my glass eyes flutter. You know this pale heart stutters for you. Each beat is a one-hit wonder. Each line, my two-track city view. Oh, Layla Lou. The skyline drops and I do too. In a city, strung tight, black wire in a yellow moon. Your drum and it's not beating slowly. Each hit, my two-track city view. Oh, Layla Lou. Oh, the skyline drops just like you do.
I've heard enough. I think we should sign her. You have a gorgeous voice.
Oh, thank you.
Who are you singing that to?
Oh man. Well, I'm not. It's not a song that's really directed toward anyone. I have a lot of writing that's more about me, and my emotions. I almost feel as though when I sing that song, I'm singing about and to a former self. I don't have a situation. Like, the song is a metaphor about a city, like the horizon line kind of rising and falling with the sun. And the song talks about this girl who's being left by a lover continually. Every night he'll stay for the night and then leave. And I don't have an experience that speaks to that, but I can understand that emotion of being afraid that someone will leave you. And so I take this tiny emotion, and it kind of blossoms into a song. And so I'm not singing to anyone in that particular song. It's more about how I was feeling, how I feel now, and it's a very introspective experience, I guess.
And to a person listening to it, what do you want them to get from the song that you wrote and then sang, the way you sang it with all that feeling?
Right. Well,
there was a lot of feeling in that song.
Yeah, it's a powerful song, and for me, I guess instead of a message, instead of something to take away and kind of be like, okay, I've learned this lesson, it's more of an empathy thing for me. I can't tell you what it's like to hear somebody say, oh, I know how that feels, or like, oh my goodness, you've said something and that totally speaks to my situation. And so for me, I want people to feel what I was feeling and experience the emotion I used to write that piece.
You're a very gifted young lady.
Thanks.
And it's amazing to me that can come from 18 years on this planet. I want to come back in the second set. I want to talk about some of the musicians and the songwriters that you admire, maybe emulate, some of your visions, your goals. We want to play more of your music. I want to talk to you about a couple of things as well. You started out with Christian music.
Yes.
I want to talk about how you've evolved from that as well.
Yeah.
This is All Things Moore County. Our guest for the entire hour is Annelle Staal. She's 18. She's on her way to Nashville with a recording contract in hand, and we're going to talk a little bit about your first trip to Nashville.
I can't wait.
We'll be right back.
Paradise, and when your hands in mine, I hold back the tears she cried. So blind to everything she knows. What you did to her will haunt me. What's untold feels like forgotten memory.
Welcome back to our second set, All Things Moore County, with our special guest, Annelle Staal.
Hello.
Hey. We were listening to Echo coming into this set.
Yes.
I'm taken by your voice. It's not a high-pitched voice by any means.
No, that's actually kind of funny. A funny story. In fact, originally when I signed with my manager for the first time, he was saying that typically when you're kind of doing a vocal audition for a girl, you want to know how high and how loud they can get. And something that was striking about me, so he says, was that I can't really do the high and loud, but I can do the low and resonating. So
right.
Yeah. It's really cool. We're working on a new EP in Nashville right now. An EP is kind of like a little baby album, and we're really trying to highlight that. It's a little more acoustic than Run, which we heard earlier in the first set, and it's very true to me and kind of my true tone.
And you wrote all the songs we're going to hear today. You wrote.
Yes, yeah.
Can you tell me about Echo? You wrote Echo.
Yes. Actually, it's kind of a funny story. That one I wrote in the car, and I was driving to a friend's house, and when I got there, I wrote it on their piano. So, like, I already had the lyrics and the melody, and I was just kind of like, wait, I got to take a second. I got to write this song. And so I snuck away to the piano and wrote the piano part to Echo. So it's a deeply emotional song for me, and that's another one where the empathy is its own reward, because it's about kind of being with a man, in my case, a lover, who's been with other people. And that's something it's so common, those feelings of kind of jealousy and uncertainty and just kind of like fear of the unknown, like what do you not know about this person, and I've talked to so many other young women and really, and like, mothers and wives and that kind of thing who can relate to that song. And it's so rewarding as an artist facilitating a conversation about hard emotions, and sometimes sad emotions for women and guys too.
To a young woman listening to that song, is it that they can't believe or trust the good feelings that they feel? Is there a doubt? Is there a what if?
Well, it's more about it's more, it sounds like it's to the lover. It sounds like it's to the person who's been with multiple people, but it's really about the two girls. And what happens is when one girl's heart is broken, the next girl, I guess, that guy breaks her heart or whatever, it's as though the first girl's heartbreak kind of echoes into the second, is like the concept behind it. And it's less of a little bit of a distrust, but it's more about wanting to bond or side with that other girl who was hurt by this guy. Which I think is it's an interesting dynamic. I really liked it because there's not a whole lot of songs about that, It's just kind of a different situation. So, yeah.
Who do you admire? Who do you emulate? Who do you try to pattern yourself after, or who has inspired you in the professional ranks?
Like artist-wise?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you're gonna laugh, I think, at most of these, but one of my favorite artists is John Mayer. I was kind of raised on this Pandora playlist of John Mayer, Jack Johnson, and Bob Marley, and all of those writers, like, I love them. And it's not my writing style at all. I don't write like poolside easy listening music, but I really like especially John Mayer's kind of like his introspective lyrics about like just he really looks inside himself to come up with his lyrics. In terms of like female stars or that kind of thing, I think I definitely, I mean, Adele, and Adele also has a low voice. I get compared to Adele a lot, and
right.
I really like her style. I really like, this may sound weird, but I really liked Lady Gaga. She was an amazing artist.
That's right.
A really amazing writer and pianist. And despite like the super popped out stuff she did, which I actually didn't mind, she did a lot of like more acoustic things that I've gone back and listened to, and I really enjoy.
She's you mentioned Lady Gaga. She's a very talented artist who used outrageousness as her marketing tool.
It's true.
And it was very successful.
It was. She was, I mean, I can't say a single bad thing about her because what she did worked, and she got people to think, and she was edgy and she was different, and
right.
I'm edgy and different in my own way, and
right.
yeah, I think she's cool.
Right. So you had a coach, a mentor here, Dawn Coffey. You want to talk a little bit about her?
Oh, I'd love to. Well, Dawn Coffey and I became very good friends after she discovered me at a gig. So I was playing in the Drum and Quill, which is in downtown Pinehurst, and Miss Dawn came and she was like, "Hey, I used to work in Nashville as a recording artist and a touring artist. I'd really like to help you out." And so she offered to do some of my local booking. And then together we organized this Nashville trip. And it was really funny. She just kind of knew this guy. I guess he was still in college when they knew each other and didn't know kind of where he had ended up as an artist, but his name is Andrew Bergethold. And Andrew ended up, we organized a trip to kind of come out, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll totally do a demo for you." He was a producer. And when we got out, lo and behold, we discovered that Andrew has a Grammy. He worked on the For King and Country record. They're Christian contemporary artists, very successful band in that industry. And Andrew is very, very talented. And then that same day, we ran into Wes Mayers, who's the owner of Redline Entertainment, which is a management company. And then when he came out to see me in the studio, it was really funny because Wes doesn't ordinarily do things like that. He's a busy guy. People are dropping demos all the time. And it was really lucky, very serendipitous. He said he just kind of got a feeling about me and was like, I'll come. And so when he walked into the studio, he was impressed. And within 3 days, we were talking about signing with one another. But a lot of that was just kind of really, really lucky, you know, with meeting Andrew and then having Andrew's assistance kind of in developing my sound and that kind of convincing Wes. It was very like, oh my gosh, like God totally has his hand on this kind of situation.
Is there, with all this the serendipity and the things that have happened to you, and all of a sudden, wow, you're moving to Nashville in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Is there a part of you that is scared?
Oh, I mean, obviously.
Is this all believable?
Yeah, well, you know, there's the fear of failure, which is gripping at times because, you know, stage fright and, you know, you're afraid of letting the people who've invested so much time in you down. But there's also this fear of success. And
right.
it's an odd thing to kind of describe because it sounds like, oh man, like getting to reach so many people with my music would be incredible, but it's a hard life, you know, being an artist, especially going on tour. Like, I even feel it locally when I'm packing up and you're surrounded by people at the shows. Constant affirmation, constant attention, and it's just this big silent emptiness when you're done with a show. And it's a very, like, it's a mental game a lot of times, and it draws a lot of your energy emotionally and physically, writing songs and performing songs. And so, yeah, it's a mixture of emotions.
You know, I don't know if it's an advantage or disadvantage that I've known you 10 years. And I try to put myself in your dad's position.
Oh my gosh.
You're getting into an industry that has a reputation for going through people like,
oh yeah,
and yet
burn us out like wicks. That's
right.
exactly what happens. Yeah.
But so your back is gonna be against the wall a little bit.
Yeah.
But when I look back at some of the greatest vocalists of all time in my lifetime, Frank Sinatra, he didn't write a song.
Yeah.
He didn't write. A lot of the very fine vocalists always performed other people's music.
Yeah, it's true.
Being a writer and a singer and a performer, by the way, because I do,
Right.
I will say that when you get on stage, you have a lot of fun with what you're doing. You seem like you're completely at ease. You're reading the crowd. I mean, and then it's almost like there's a transformation.
Yeah.
Is it a safe place for you?
Oh my gosh, it's really funny to explain it because before, especially big shows, I just get super wiggy. Like, oh my gosh, I have to go to the bathroom 10 times or whatever. But the minute I'm on stage,
Wiggy means nervous. Wiggy means nervous.
yes, wiggy
Okay.
means sorry.
I'm with you.
I'm
I'm
all
with
over the
you.
place.
I'm right there.
But when I get on the stage and I start singing or I start talking to the crowd, it's like this very exciting, peaceful autopilot takes over. It's really not like I don't have a nervous bone in my body. I'm just having a ton of fun. And I just I shut off. You can't really think about anything else. So it's almost like an escape. It's this will sound crazy, but it's like the feeling you get when you're watching TV or like playing a video game, and you're just kind of like immersed in the experience, and you're not really thinking about anything else except I'm living it. So yeah, it's super fun. I love it.
Yeah. The fact that you write it is almost like an insurance policy as well, isn't it?
Oh, it totally is. Yeah, we're working on a publishing deal right now. And if I had to choose, I think, if I had to choose between being a writer and a vocalist, I would definitely choose writer. The amazing opportunity, because, you know, good tunes will get stuck in people's heads, and vocalists are good at doing that. But then what it comes down to is once somebody has a tune in their head, what are they listening to? What are the words that are staying with them? And I take that as a great responsibility. I understand that words and music have power. So, the opportunity a writer has is valuable.
I'm envious because I like music. I don't know a lot about it, but when I hear a song that I like, I always say to myself, I wish I could write like that. I wish I could marry the words with the music and come out. And I sent you a couple of things, people from my generation.
Right.
The Gordon Lightfoots of the world, the Jim Croce's of the world, Loggins and Messina. And those 20, 30 years, they stick with you.
Right. They stand the test of time. Good writing always does.
Yeah, I think you will too. We're going to come back in the third set. This is All Things Moore County, speaking all show with Annelle Staal.
Hold me close, so untouched, so blind to everything she knows. You touch me now, and when my chest beats your drawn in brow, you'll find a heart breaks like hers is loud.
Welcome back to our final set with Annelle Staal. We're fortunate that we could get together with her before she leaves for Nashville on a whole new adventure. We ended the second set talking about perhaps your preference for writing versus singing. However, having both under your wing gives you better odds.
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
On every, I admire singer-songwriters. I do. All my life, I have certain favorite ones, and I shared a few with you.
Yeah.
And I always wish I could have put that to music or said it that way. And then an emotion can get transferred so simply, and it stays with you. And people sometimes they claim songs as their own.
Oh yeah, that was something we were talking about
That's right.
one-on-one earlier.
That's right.
People will hear a song on the radio and they didn't write it, they didn't sing it, but they're like, that is my song.
That's right.
And I started realizing that as a writer, people will be like, I love that song, that is my song.
That's right.
I'm like, well, it's my song, but whatever. And you start to realize that we just bond so much with our music. It has a huge impact on how we think and everything. So yeah, very essential part of life, music.
Sometimes you could say that writing music, it's like it gives you the ability to speak to other people's listening. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
And that makes you very... What is it with Adele? Everyone... And I know that I can see the comparisons. There are so many people who... They gravitate towards her music, her voice. Is it her story? What is it?
I mean, honestly, I think it's the emotional delivery of her music. She, as a vocalist, and then also the situation that she came with, clearly had some kind of crazy past lover, because she can just relate so much to what she's singing emotionally that she just gives a stellar performance. You can't help but feel what she's feeling when you listen to her, and just her voice is like water. It's beautiful. So yeah, I love that ability, I guess, of a performer to really take people and create a very an immersion experience with the music and the emotion and the story and stuff. It's really cool being able to control the atmosphere in a room, for sure.
I want to go back a little bit in time, if we can jump back, because we're a week away from Nashville. You started your music, your writing, it was more Christian contemporary.
Yeah.
And how old, and what age group were you?
I started writing Christian contemporary worship music when I was around 15. And that really came, I had matured a lot in my faith, and my church experience had been a really good one, and I listened a lot to it, so I latched on to the format and the structure of a contemporary Christian song, and I wrote a lot of it, and I went to Immerse, the GMA conference at Immerse, and it was a competition, a songwriting competition. There were 400-ish, I think, video auditions. Then if you made top 100 or something like that, you got to go and compete live in front of these industry kind of professionals. And so I made it to the top 5 in the competition, But afterwards, just kind of decided I wasn't really ready to write worship music. They have a very specific, it's a delicate balance, because there are so many like kind of touchy subjects about religion and between denominations, and I just kind of felt like it wasn't my place quite yet. And so when I came home, that was really the start of a new era for me as an artist, because I was giving myself permission to talk about other things, not necessarily like ungodly things or things that I felt like, you know, God would look down and say like, I'm so disappointed in you that you're not singing worship to me, you know, but just other life things, you know, like, and my music now I wouldn't really describe as like faith driven, in the sense that it's not super explicit, but it's very spiritual. For me. It's very emotional, and it takes a lot of just kind of like that spiritual faith energy that you feel inside of you. I feel like I pour out into a lot of my songs. So yeah, it's not the same, but it still has the same emotional weight and I guess spiritual significance for me personally.
Do you want to can we play a song that you wrote called Decade?
Yes. Oh, that's a great one to talk.
Give me a little setup on that before we do. Yeah.
So Decade is one of the most introspective songs I've ever written. But I wrote it about I thought of our life or our lives if you measure them in decades. Your first decade, your first little like, you know, like 10 to 1 to like 10 or 12 or something like that, you're being raised by your parents with certain moral values. And so you're being kind of like these values and morals and stuff are kind of being driven into you for that first decade. And then the second decade, you kind of become a teenager, a young adult, and you end in your 20s. And I feel like for a lot of young people, those morals, those values are tested during that second decade. And so the song talks a lot about just the value in kind of what I've learned, and then from somebody who's in their second decade, feeling like I'm being tested. It talks a lot about what that feels like. So again, a spiritual, emotional song. Yeah. Let's see what you think.
Yeah, let's listen to Decade.
2 or 3 times for, well, a decade spent is a decade more than before. 1 single 6 and 6, and I thought I knew I tried to fix. Well, the difficulty with young ages, that innocence is so quickly changed, and the balance of reality depends on what the rest think they believe. Axe in hand, I still stand in the shade. What a love, what a thing to say, all alone in the company of a devil and a bride to be. A decade old again, don't think I'll have another decade or more to spend to think it over. I guess it all depends if you like time more than a friend. He'll give you a decade more again. We'll paint by number, wear the dress. It's a gentle slumber, but it's still rest. Keep your dreams in the sky, but the sky on the wall, just above the fan blades where they can't help but fall. By the end of the day, near the end of time, well, your whites and ivory and a ruby shine, and the trees ablaze.
Very impressive. I'm listening to it.
Thank you.
I mean, I was really trying to listen to the words.
Yeah.
And there's so many meanings.
Yeah.
I sent you, before your time, I thought Gordon Lightfoot wrote beautiful lyrics for his music. Beautiful words.
Yes.
Your lyrics are just full on the score, on the music. Everything is accounted for.
Thank you.
Right? There's
Yeah.
There's nothing left unattended, not an ah ha ha. Every syllable has a note.
Always stay away from like and tonight and oh yeah. So I like to.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think I've been super picky about this in the studio, and people kind of get annoyed at me, but I never want to waste words. So when we're like, oh yeah, let's just throw in some random bridge of like ahs and stuff. Like, unless the ahs are making you feel uncomfortable and making you think something that I want you to think, I do not waste time, or I guess melody. I don't want to waste melody. If I can say something right there, I'm gonna say something right there. So, yeah, that second verse. At the end of the day, by the end of time, while your whites and ivory and a ruby shine, and the trees ablaze with the candle you raised on the day they told you to sing Saving Grace. That speaks a lot to me coming from a Christian perspective, because there's like this expectation for purity, but I don't think in this world, obviously nobody's perfect, so that like your whites ruby, or like your whites and ivory and a ruby shine, is kind of capturing that like it's impossible kind of thing. Even if you stay like pure white, we're kind of cast in this ruby glow in like a sinful world and whatnot. And then the second verse talks about how the tree is ablaze. It talks about a tree in the chorus, and the tree becomes lit on fire with this candle they tell you to innocently raise on the day they told you to sing Saving Grace. So it's even when you have good intentions, some of them just continually fall through. And again, it's all about like that testing thing. But I love talking about that song, because it like each verse is a different part of feeling tested and feeling like it's very human, I think. So, yeah.
You're an old soul.
Oh, thanks.
No, I think you were born an old soul. In preparing to get together with you today, I had to go back in my mind, in my generation, to listen to songs that resonated with me and listen to a lot of yours. And there were some similarities, and some of the things, you call it emotional logic.
Yeah.
But there's a characteristic about some of your songs that are very didactic in nature. You're teaching, you're mentoring, or you're coaching.
Yeah.
That tends to stick with you like a oatmeal with honey. It sticks to your gut, doesn't it?
I like that, oatmeal with honey.
We have a new song coming up.
I enjoy oatmeal and honey, so I'll just add that to my list of metaphors. Like, we'll throw that one in the next pop hit, oatmeal and honey.
But it's part philosophy. It's part you want to submit a thought, an emotion, a feeling, and put it out there, and you put it out there in a very pure way.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But that's a byproduct of what you do. But you want people to own your music, hook onto it.
Yeah. And it's funny because music is such a social thing, but writing, for me at least, is a very solitary thing.
Right.
And so Decade, this discussion about Decade is just, it's so, like, that song in particular, I wrote from a very introspective, a very like just me, focused on me kind of thing. And then only when you hear it back does it sound like I'm telling somebody else something. But for me, while I'm writing, I'm just trying to articulate how I feel. And I never really know how I feel until the end of the song, because I'll go into it like I feel this like storm cloud in my chest, and then we start writing, and I'm like, okay, so it's like, and it's almost like a weather map starts coming up, and you're like trying to locate, like, okay, where on the, like, where's the storm cloud on like the emotional meter or whatever, and the logic kind of plays into it. So I started Decade having no idea what it was going to be about. It's really interesting as a writer, getting to like make something that's very solitary, very, very introspective, into something that's very social and very discussion driven and stuff.
10 years from now, when you are very successful and well known,
and I have lots of cats,
then you're going to write a follow-up to Decade. And
am I really?
I can't wait to hear it.
Well, Oatmeal and Honey, that could be the...
Every decade has, it's like a book unto itself. It's like a chapter. And
That's true.
When you stand there and look back, and it's amazing because you never stop learning, you never stop growing. If you do, you're not living, right? And you live in your life, you live in your music, so you're right at the forefront of it. And if you remain introspective, I think you could probably have an anthology of Decade. We can call Decade over the next 4 or 5.
Decade 1, Decade 2, Decade 3, and the things I've learned in between.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think it marks you very well as an artist. we talked a little bit about your stage presence. As much as some of your songs are introspective, you also like to rock it a little. You like to get up there and have a good time, and sometimes there's a country theme to it. There's a hip. I'm not quite sure how to describe it, but you enjoy
folksy.
it.
Yeah, it's a mixture between like I kind of rock out a bit, and it's also a little folksy with like the ukulele makes it sound kind of like Southern almost. Broadway is probably the thing I think we're about to lead into How I Roll, which is the final song that we have for everybody today, and that one I really wanted to include because it's very like that one is far more social, and it kind of represents that kind of like Annelle's like rocking out on the stage or whatever, and a lot of that Broadway influence we were talking about earlier with the musicals and the musical theater. It's very much like it's just kind of over the top. Not really something you could record and put on the radio, but a good live show.
Let's listen to it. How I Roll. I like it already.
Hey there, there's a world outside, don't just stay there. Come on, you'll find a place here made just for you. Yes, I'm different, but you are too. Don't be sniffed at, looked around, you'll find we're all in this just the same, and it's you who can make a change. Don't be afraid to say okay.
Wait for it.
I'm a little psychiatric, I'm a goon, spazzing addict, and I only like the games I can play. Oh, people think I'm funky, but we're all just kind of clunky, and I've always kind of liked me this way. Oh, 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 whoa, oh, that's how I roll. Oh, 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 oh.
I love it.
Don't be scared to be yourself, and when you share, it shows the world that you care enough to blaze a way for the rest of us to admit we're not the best of us. Oh, it's okay, there's no need to fuss. We can make a change, 'cause we're not the same. Don't be afraid to say okay. I'm a little psychiatric, I'm a goon, spazzing addict, and I only like the games I can play. Oh, people think I'm funky, but we're all just kind of clunky, and I've always kind of liked me this way. Oh, oh, oh,
Where do I buy it? Do I download it? That's outstanding.
Not quite yet.
It's outstanding.
Thanks.
It's really outstanding.
Actually, I just came back from a performance of that song. Just before we're doing this radio interview, I was at a performance of and we had a bunch of people that nobody knew played instruments. They were all kind of Moore County faculty in the school system, and they came up with me and they played it, and it was great because
it was well received.
It's about being yourself and being a little funky, being a little clunky, and it's one of my faves.
You're a wordsmith, is what you are.
Yeah, I like that term.
Oh,
I've
you
heard
are.
that before.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, you absolutely are. That particular song, the words, they fit, they made sense. They weren't just fillers. They had meaning. They had symmetry. Every note was accounted for.
Thank you. Don't waste melody. That's my policy.
You're leaving Moore County next week.
Yes.
How are Mom and Dad handling it all?
Mom is a little bit of a free spirit like me. She's cool. I think Dad is struggling. Mm-hmm. He's going to miss his little girl. Mm-hmm. And I'll miss them too. It's hard, growing up and moving out of the house, and I'm their oldest, so it's a little sad. Mm-hmm. But it's an amazing thing. I couldn't have a better opportunity.
And you have talented sisters but they also support you 100%.
Yes.
There's no petty jealousies.
They're
or
like
anything.
my built-in backup chorus, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the time I had you and your two sisters in my car many years ago. We were driving back from Whole Foods in Cary, and you all were carrying on the back seat, singing, like 3-part harmony. It was beautiful. Little did you know, or little did I know, we would be sitting here today.
I remember that you let us buy treats.
That's right.
Got to keep the little girls entertained.
It was easy.
It's so fun.
So you're moving. You're going to be traveling a lot. What do you expect to happen with your?
I'm actually living very close to the studio where I'll be working.
Okay.
I'm doing a lot of interviews, hopefully, if everything goes well. Job interviews with publishing companies, record labels, working a lot on new music, and looking forward to it all. So.
Can people go online and look you up and follow you? Where can we go?
Yes. Well, Annelle.info is the current hotspot for all things Annelle Staal. And we'll soon have AnnelleStaal.com up and running, along with a lot of new music within this next half a year. So look for AnnelleStaal.com, Annelle Staal on all social media, and then Annelle.info currently.
We everybody who knows you wishes you very well, and everyone who knows you knows that you're going to do very well, whatever that comes to, whatever it's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
Oh, it was a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, you too, Mr. Bill.
Everyone, thank you. This is All Things Moore County. We'll speak with you next week. Good luck, Annelle.
Thank you.